In the time when the 9 worlds were young and the ash tree Yggdrasil still sang with the voices of its roots, there came among the gods a woman of such beauty and might that all who beheld her trembled. She was Freyja, daughter of Njrr of the sea and sister to fair Freyr, and from the moment she set foot in Asgard, her name was sung by skalds and whispered by giants, by men, and by elves alike. Her hair shone like the ripened fields of harvest, her eyes blazed with the dusk fire of the northern sky, and her tears fell not as water but as drops of red gold that brightened the earth. She came not empty-handed, for about her neck gleamed the wondrous Brísingamen, a necklace wrought by the cunning of dwarves, so radiant that even the gods coveted it. Wherever Freyja walked, desire followed, yet she was no mere ornament of beauty. She was mistress of love and of war, of fertility and of death, and none could match her in the secret art of seiðr, the witchcraft that bent fate like a bow. It is told that when the Vanir and the Aesir ended their war, Freyja was among those sent as hostage to seal peace. Yet in truth she was no captive, for she strode proudly into Odin's hall and there claimed her seat among the high gods. In council she was heard with respect, for Odin himself had sought her wisdom in magic, learning from her the arts that men feared but craved. To Freyja belonged Folkvangr, the field of the host, and Seiðr, her hall within it, where she welcomed half of all slain warriors while Odin claimed the rest. Thus she ruled not only over love and desire, but over valor and death, and her hall rang with the voices of the brave. The people of Midgard prayed to her for fruitful fields, for safe childbirth, for passion in marriage, and for victory in battle. To the poor she was a goddess of kindness, to the proud she was the flame that consumed them. Yet she was also pursued relentlessly by giants who sought her as bride, for her beauty was a prize beyond measure. Many were the quarrels, many the bargains, and many the oaths sworn over Freyja's hand. Still, though she walked often among the gods, her heart was restless. Her beloved husband, Ar, wandered far on journeys no one could name, and Freyja searched for him across the worlds, her golden tears marking her path. In this sorrow lay her truest strength, though she was desired by many, her loyalty endured, and her grief shaped the myths sung through ages. Thus begins the tale of Freyja, the most radiant of the goddesses, feared and adored, giver of life and taker of souls, whose stories echo through the sagas like the flight of her falcon cloak over the endless skies. Long ago, when the fires of the forge still rang deep beneath the mountains, Freyja wandered into the caverns where the dwarves wrought wonders from stone and metal. There she saw a necklace unlike any other, wrought with such brilliance that the light of the sun and the gleam of the moon seemed woven into its links. This was Brísingamen, treasure of the Brísingar, the 4 dwarves who had shaped it with hammer and flame. Desire struck Freyja's heart, fiercer than hunger, deeper than thirst. She begged the dwarves to sell it for silver, for gold, for gems of every kind. But the dwarves laughed, for what use had they for such things when they could carve wealth from the earth itself? Instead they set forth a price of their own, each dwarf demanded a night with the goddess. Now Freyja's pride was great, but her longing greater. To her Brísingamen was no mere ornament, but a symbol of her might and beauty, a treasure worthy of the goddess of love and war. For 4 nights she remained in the halls of the dwarves, and when dawn of the 5th came, the necklace was hers. Around her neck it shone with power so fierce that even Odin, High One of Asgard, desired it for himself. But Odin was not easily denied. He set Loki, the sly one, to steal Brísingamen from Freyja's breast. Shifting into the form of a fly, Loki crept into her chamber as she slept. He stung her cheek to make her turn, and with cunning fingers unfastened the clasp. Thus the necklace passed from goddess to trickster, and from trickster into Odin's hand. When Freyja woke and found it gone, her wrath shook the heavens. She confronted Odin, her voice sharp as the crack of thunder, demanding the return of what was hers. Yet Odin, ever cunning, set forth a price. Brísingamen would be hers again if she caused 2 mighty kings to rise in Midgard, and if they battled unceasingly, doomed to fall and rise once more until the world's end. Freyja accepted, for no force could keep her from the necklace that bound her fate. And so it was, 2 kings warred endlessly, their slain hosts rising again with each dawn, fighting until the last twilight. Thus Brísingamen was restored to her, but at the cost of bloodshed without end. From that day forth, Brísingamen gleamed upon her neck, a symbol of desire and of strife, a jewel that drew suitors, stirred envy, and tied Freyja's name forever to both beauty and doom. Beyond the shining halls of Asgard, past meadows where no mortal foot had trod, lay Folkvangr, the field of the host. It was a wide and fertile plain, forever green, where no winter touched and no famine gnawed. Here stood seiðr, Freyja's hall, whose doors opened wide to welcome the brave. It is said that when warriors fell on the fields of Midgard, their spirits rose not all to Odin, but half to Freyja, who claimed them by right as her chosen. To Odin went those bound for Valhalla, where mead and endless battle awaited, where the All-Father gathered champions for the Twilight War. Yet Freyja's share was equal in number, and hers was no lesser honor. In seiðr the slain found peace as well as glory, a hall of feasting, of songs, of love remembered, where wounds no longer ached and sorrow was lifted. Some said it was gentler than Odin's hall, for though Freyja was fierce in battle, her heart burned with compassion for those who had fought bravely and died far from their kin. Skalds tell that in war she soared above the clash of swords, cloaked in falcon's feathers, unseen save for a shimmer in the sky. When spears pierced the shield wall and men fell into the dust, she bent to choose her share. Sometimes the fiercest, sometimes the most faithful, sometimes those whose hearts were pure though their swords were dulled, all these she gathered into Folkvangr. And the warriors who feasted there were not only men, but women too, shield maidens who bore axe and spear, their courage equal to any lord of men. It was whispered that seiðr was more than a hall, some said it was a ship, vast and golden, capable of bearing Freyja's host into battle when the world burned. Others claimed it was a hall of many rooms, each chamber suiting the spirit it welcomed, shaped by their own deeds and dreams. None among mortals could say for certain, for none returned from its threshold. Thus Freyja reigned over both passion and death. She was not only the goddess of desire but of destiny, not only of the marriage bed but of the battlefield. When warriors lifted their swords, they might pray to Odin for strength, yet many whispered also to Freyja, hoping that if they fell, her hall, with its warmth and its song, might claim them. And in this sharing of the slain, Odin and Freyja stood as equals, two powers dividing valor between them, their bond woven deep into the fate of gods and men alike. So the field of the host lay waiting, green and eternal, and in seiðr the laughter of the dead rose like music, watched over by the goddess whose beauty was matched only by her might. In every age it is told that Freyja's tears were not like the tears of men. When grief weighed upon her heart, when longing hollowed her breast, she wept not with salt water but with drops of purest gold, red as embers, bright as fire beneath the mountain. Wherever they fell, they glittered in the grass, they sank into the soil, they lodged in the riverbeds, and men who later found them took them for treasure fallen from the sky. This sorrow came most often with thoughts of Ar, her wandering husband. Few among the gods knew whither he went, for he roamed far beyond the bounds of Asgard, a traveler of distant lands and hidden paths. Some whispered he was a god of the wild road, some said he was kin to Odin himself, or even Odin in another guise. But to Freyja he was her beloved, and his absence cut her more deeply than any blade. Through all the 9 worlds she sought him. She journeyed east and west, north and south, across seas and through forests, donning her falcon cloak to fly where no road could carry her. Always she searched, and always her tears of gold marked the path behind. Men would find these gleaming drops in the fields and rivers of Midgard, never knowing that they were born of a goddess's grief. They forged them into rings, crowns, and ornaments, never guessing that they carried the sorrow of Freyja within them. And so the skalds sang, that gold was called the tears of Freyja, for wherever wealth was piled high, there too was longing, and wherever desire burned, sorrow followed. Her grief became a symbol for the fickleness of love, for the beauty that comes always with a price. Yet her weeping was not weakness. For though Freyja's heart ached, her tears fed the world with wealth, and in her sorrow she gave mankind the gleam that kings coveted and warriors bore into battle. Just as she ruled both love and war, she also bore both joy and sorrow, her beauty radiant even when veiled in grief. Thus, in every telling, her tears fall still. Somewhere in the wide fields of Midgard, when a red gold nugget glitters in the soil, it is said to be one drop of her heart's longing, shed in the endless search for her wandering lord. And though our remains lost to tale and time, Freyja's weeping endures, her sorrow woven into the very wealth of men, her love eternal, her grief immortal. Before the Vanir came to dwell in Asgard, before peace bound them to the Aesir, there was a secret known only to Freyja. It was the art called seiðr, the deep magic that wove the threads of fate, bent the will of men, and whispered to the spirits that stir in earth and sky. No other goddess or god had such mastery, for seiðr was not of the spear or the sword, but of cunning, patience, and sacrifice. With seiðr one might see what was hidden, foretell what was yet to come, or shape the heart of another as easily as clay. One might bring storms to sea, turn a warrior's courage to fear, or strike sickness like a shadow upon a household. Yet seiðr was perilous, for it demanded the opening of the self to powers that could not be tamed. Few dared its practice, but Freyja not only dared, she excelled, and from her hand even Odin himself learned its mysteries. It is told that in the early days she came to Asgard in the guise of a Volva, a seeress, whom men called Air. She entered the halls of kings and nobles, and wherever she went she spoke of riches, of desires fulfilled, of futures glimpsed in the smoke of fire. Many were enchanted, many gave her gifts, and many hungered for more of what she promised. But her words sowed discord, for with longing came strife, with greed came quarrels, and soon the lords turned on one another. Some cursed her as witch, others hailed her as goddess. When the Aesir first encountered her craft, they scorned it as unmanly, for to open oneself to unseen spirits was thought a shame among warriors. Yet Odin, ever seeking knowledge beyond the bounds of gods and men, looked past such scorn. From Freyja he learned seiðr, though in secret, and with it he gained wisdom that even the Norns guarded jealously. Still, the price was mockery, for the other gods whispered that the All-Father had stooped to woman's magic. But Freyja bore no shame. She walked openly as mistress of the craft, her falcon cloak flashing as she journeyed to teach, to heal, to curse, and to bless. For her, seiðr was not weakness but power, a weaving of the hidden threads that bound all fates together. She alone could balance love with war, desire with death, gentleness with fury, and in her practice of seiðr the worlds themselves bent slightly toward her will. Thus it was said, where Freyja passed, visions followed. Where her voice lingered, dreams deepened. And in every hall of men and gods, whether loved or feared, she was known as the first and greatest mistress of the witch's art. No goddess was so desired as Freyja. Wherever she walked, hearts turned like iron to a lodestone, and many were the quarrels and bargains struck for her hand. Kings in Midgard, giants in Jotunheim, even gods among the Aesir, each sought to claim her, though few dared openly. Yet always her beauty was both gift and burden, for it drew envy as swiftly as it drew longing. The dwarves, who once forged Brísingamen, were not the only smiths to covet her. Others in their deep halls offered treasures, weapons, and gold beyond counting, hoping she might favor them. Giants, bold and greedy, sent envoys to Asgard demanding her as bride, and time after time the gods bristled at the insult, for they knew to lose Freyja would be to lose the pride and power of Asgard itself. Most famed was the tale of the giant who built the walls of Asgard after the war with the Vanir. He came in the guise of a simple mason, offering to raise a fortress so strong that no Jotun nor troll could breach it. His price was steep, the sun, the moon, and Freyja herself. The gods, eager for walls, agreed only on condition that the work be finished within a single season. Yet the mason, aided by his mighty stallion Svalfari, built swiftly, and the gods grew fearful that the bargain would be met. It was Loki, as ever, who found the way out. He changed himself into a mare, lured the stallion astray, and the mason could not complete the wall. When his true Jotun nature was revealed, Thor slew him with Mjolnir. And thus Freyja was spared from being given as payment, though her anger burned bright, for she had not been asked, only promised like a trinket in a bargain. Other giants came wooing with threats or flatteries. Some offered rivers of silver, others great strongholds. Always they were denied, though often not before blood was shed or cunning schemes were spun. For to possess Freyja was to possess both beauty and power, and every realm longed for her as a prize. Yet even among the gods, whispers spread. Some accused her of granting herself too freely, others that her magic stirred desire where none was meant. But those who slandered her forgot her wrath, for Freyja was not meek, and her anger was sharp as her love was deep. She struck back with scorn, with curses, with the withering of crops or the turning of fortune, until none dared speak lightly of her. Thus her suitors were many, her bargains dangerous, her presence always contested. But through all trials, Freyja remained her own, bound to none save Ar, and even his long wandering could not sever her loyalty. For though her beauty drew the worlds toward her, her will was hers alone, unbroken, unclaimed.